Recently, Meri and I have had some discussions about the property, Coyote Pass, in Flagstaff.
It was to be the Brown family's crowning accomplishment, a large piece of land in Flagstaff, Arizona, called Coyote Pass. Kody Brown presented it as the property that would bring together his 4 wives in one household, a forever home for their children and grandchildren. For years on Sister Wives, viewers saw the family traverse that desert land, indicating where homes would be built, promising a new era of harmony. But now, in a surprising courtroom twist, a judge has ruled that Coyote Pass is not a dream. It is a liability, and in a ruling that left fans in shock, the court ordered Kody Brown to dispose of the land after secret debts were uncovered. How did a vision of unity fall apart in a courtroom scandal? How did Kody, so sure, so self-assured, that Coyote Pass would be the key to his family's prosperity, lose everything to debt, allegations of fraud, and betrayal? This is the story that the cameras didn't show you. A trial that exposed not only the reality of Coyote Pass, but also the cracks in the Brown family that made it impossible to thrive. What you're about to hear comes from insider reports, leaked documents, and courtroom testimony, and it changes everything fans thought they knew about the Brown family's forever land. The plaintiffs were Christine and Janelle Brown themselves, having parted ways with the plural marriage, but not the financial devastation Kody brought along. They maintained that Kody and Robyn had hidden debt directly related to Coyote Pass. Debt that rendered the property undevelopable, debt that once revealed reduced their dream to ash. The defense, Robyn and Kody Brown, his legal wife. Their argument was straightforward. Family finances are messy, the land remained theirs, and debt did not equal fraud. But as the evidence came rolling out, even die-hard fans were gobsmacked. Christine's lawyer, Eleanor Vance, notorious already for her cutting, biting tactics in earlier cases against the Browns, presented the prosecution's central thesis. For years, my clients were advised that they were investing in their future. They sold their houses, liquidated retirement funds, and entrusted their husband. What they didn't know is that the land was underwater in debt. They were sold a fantasy that never materialized. And the only way out is to sell Coyote Pass and finally compensate the victims of this fraud. The courtroom fell silent as Vance produced the first exhibit, a debt disclosure statement buried deep in county records. It showed that liens, unpaid property taxes, and secret mortgage loans had piled up on Coyote Pass for years. The tally? More than $750,000 owed, money that Christine and Janelle had never heard about. Robyn held her tissue, her head shaking. Kody glared, arms folded, his jaw clenched. But the harm was done. The jury could tell that what had been painted as a pure investment was actually saddled with suffocating debt. For fans who thought the family's troubles ended with divorces and broken relationships, this was only the beginning. The court wasn't just examining a failed marriage, it was unraveling a financial scandal. And as the trial dragged on, more was soon to be revealed. From lavish expenditures to suspect loans, Christine and Janelle's attorneys were going to demonstrate to the jury that Coyote Pass wasn't just a flop. It was the financial crime scene of the Brown family dynasty. The prosecution unveils Exhibit B, proof that Christine and Janelle's own money was funneled into Robyn's mansion instead of paying down the Coyote Pass debt. The second day of the trial opened with tension so thick you could feel it. Christine and Janelle sat side by side, their expressions firm but weary, as Eleanor Vance rose to introduce the next bombshell. In the case Exhibit B, the prosecution's claim was devastating in its simplicity. While Christine and Janelle believed their money was securing the family's future on Coyote Pass, Kody and Robyn had diverted much of it into something else entirely. Robyn's $890,000 Flagstaff mansion. Vance laid the documents before the court, wire transfers, loan records, and property purchase statements. On one screen, the jury saw Christine's home sale profits, nearly $200,000, deposited into the family's joint account. On another, they saw that money rerouted within days to cover the down payment on Robyn's home. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vance said sharply, her voice cutting like a blade, "the funds that should have reduced the crushing debt on Coyote Pass, funds that should have secured this family's shared dream, were instead funneled into one wife's luxury property. My clients were left with dirt and empty promises. The defendant was left with a mansion." The jury stared at the by-side images. Barren Coyote Pass on one screen, Robyn's sprawling house on the other. The contrast was brutal, undeniable. Christine's testimony drove the point home. That's fraud. The judge allowed the exhibit to remain. The jury was visibly shaken, whispering among themselves. Christine's testimony followed. Her voice cracked as she said, "I trusted him. For decades, I trusted that man. And to see, in his own words, that he wanted me out of the loop, it's worse than heartbreak, it's theft." The jury wasn't just hearing facts, they were feeling the raw betrayal that Christine and Janelle had lived through. By the time the prosecution rested for the day, the narrative was clear. Kody hadn't stumbled into debt. He had hidden it, diverted money, and prioritized Robyn's comfort over everyone else's future. But Eleanor Vance hinted at what was still to come. Exhibit D, a forensic accountant's full breakdown of just how much money Christine and Janelle had lost and how much Kody and Robyn had gained. The financial breakdown reveals the true scale of the scheme, nearly $2 million unaccounted for. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation on the fourth day of testimony. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised, fans packed into the gallery clutched notebooks and whispered nervously. Everyone knew what was coming. The forensic accountant's testimony, Exhibit D, the cold clinical numbers that would either confirm or dismantle the fraud claims against Kody Brown. Eleanor Vance introduced her witness, David Reynolds, a forensic accountant with 20 years of experience in fraud and mismanagement cases. His reputation preceded him. He had testified in high-profile corporate scandals, and now he was here to unravel the tangled web of Brown family finances. Reynolds took the stand, his voice steady, his demeanor calm. "I was hired to trace the funds contributed by Christine and Janelle Brown into the family accounts and to determine how those funds were allocated between the properties at Coyote Pass and other assets." Vance gestured to the projector where the first chart appeared, a timeline of deposits and withdrawals. The jury's eyes widened as they saw Christine's home sale deposit of $200,000 enter the account, followed almost immediately by a withdrawal of $180,000 for the down payment on Robyn's Flagstaff mansion. Reynolds pointed to the next entry. Similarly, Janelle liquidated nearly $300,000 in retirement savings. Of that, approximately $250,000 was diverted into mortgage and loan payments, not tied to Coyote Pass, but directly connected to Kody and Robyn's personal debts. A murmur swept the courtroom. The jurors shifted in their seats. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was numbers, spreadsheets, and cold, hard facts. The accountant continued, "Based on my analysis of the $750,000 contributed by Christine and Janelle between 2018 and 2022, less than $150,000 was ever applied toward Coyote Pass. The rest, over $600,000, was consumed by unrelated debt payments, personal property purchases, and household expenses tied to Kody and Robyn Brown." The second chart hit harder, a pie graph showing the breakdown of funds. Christine and Janelle's section of the investment was swallowed by blocks labeled Robyn's mansion, personal loans, and undisclosed debts. Only a sliver marked Coyote Pass remained. Vance asked the question that hung in the air. "Mr. Reynolds, in your professional opinion, were Christine and Janelle defrauded?" Reynolds nodded, Yes, the funds were represented to them as investments in Coyote Pass. Instead, the majority were redirected. That misrepresentation, in my field, qualifies as fraud. The word fraud reverberated through the room like a gunshot. Christine clasped Janelle's hand. Kody's face flushed red. Robyn buried her face in her tissue, her shoulders trembling. The defense tried desperately to discredit the testimony. Marcus Thorne argued, "Families are not corporations. This isn't fraud, it's a difference in priorities." My client never signed a contract with Christine and Janelle promising their money would only go to Coyote Pass, but Reynolds was unmoved. When financial representations are made, especially within a shared partnership, intent matters. They were told their money was going into the land. It did not. The jury scribbled furiously. The judge's gavel rapped once, silencing the growing tension. By the time Exhibit D was complete, one fact was undeniable. Christine and Janelle had poured nearly $750,000 into Coyote Pass, and almost all of it had been siphoned away. And yet, Vance wasn't finished. She announced that Exhibit E would prove something even more shocking, that Kody's legal marriage to Robyn in 2014 and Meri's corresponding divorce wasn't just about adoption. It was a deliberate move that transferred legal control of family assets to Robyn, ensuring Christine and Janelle would always be left out. Exhibit E reveals the legal marriage coup. How Robyn's elevation to legal wife secured her control over the land and locked the others out. When Eleanor Vance rose to present Exhibit E, the tension in the courtroom was electric. This wasn't just about dollars and cents anymore. This was about power, and Vance was ready to prove that the seeds of the Coyote Pass fraud were planted nearly a decade earlier, with one pivotal event: Kody's 2014 legal divorce from Meri and his immediate legal marriage to Robyn. On the projection screen, two documents appeared side by side. One, Meri Brown's divorce decree, signed and finalized in 2014. The other, Kody's new marriage certificate with Robyn, dated just weeks later. Vance turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard how Christine and Janelle's funds were diverted, how their sacrifices built someone else's mansion. But here, in these documents, lies the foundation of the scheme. Before 2014, Meri, as the only legal wife, held unique rights. She had legal standing in property matters, access to assets, and a protected claim in the event of dispute. After 2014, that power belonged to Robyn. From that day forward, she became the sole legal gateway to every asset the Browns touched, including Coyote Pass." The courtroom fell silent. Everyone knew the storyline from the show. Kody claimed the divorce was about adopting Robyn's kids, but here, Vance reframed it, not as compassion, but as strategy. Meri herself was called to the stand. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing. Kody and Robyn told me it was so her children could feel secure. I believed that. I wanted to help. But after that, everything changed. My place in the family changed. My access to Kody changed. And when Coyote Pass came into play, I realized I had no voice. I had no rights anymore." Tears welled in Meri's eyes as she added, "I gave up more than a marriage. I gave up my protection, and I didn't even know it." Vance seized the moment. So when Christine and Janelle poured money into Coyote Pass, believing they had equal stakes, who legally held the cards? Not them. Not even Meri. It was Robyn. The so-called favorite wife was not just emotionally central, she was legally supreme. Marcus Thorne, the defense attorney, objected furiously. "This is irrelevant. Legal marriage status does not prove fraud. It was done for the children." But Vance leaned in, her tone icy. "For the children or for control?" Because in every legal filing after 2014, Robyn Brown's name appears, not Christine, not Janelle, not Meri, just Robyn. The jurors looked at each other, eyebrows raised. They weren't just seeing favoritism anymore, they were seeing intent. Robyn dabbed her eyes with a tissue, whispering, "It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that." But her voice trembled. By the end of Exhibit E, the pattern was clear. Christine and Janelle had invested money without protection, while Robyn had held all the legal authority. The so-called legal marriage coup wasn't just symbolic. It was the legal framework that made the entire Coyote Pass scheme possible. But Vance wasn't done. She promised the next exhibit would strike even harder, proof that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Robyn and Kody created isolation rules designed not just to keep Christine and Janelle out physically, but financially, cutting them off while consolidating power into Robyn's household. Exhibit F, the pandemic rules, reframed as a financial and emotional weapon that pushed Christine and Janelle to the edge while shielding Robyn's control. By the time the prosecution introduced Exhibit F, the courtroom already buzzed with tension. But what came next transformed the trial from a financial scandal into a case of calculated isolation. Proof: the plaintiffs argued that even the pandemic had been weaponized in the Browns' household. Eleanor Vance clicked the remote, and on the projector appeared a familiar sight: Kody Brown sitting at a kitchen table on TLC's Sister Wives, laying down his strict COVID-19 protocols. The video showed him explaining that his rules, harsher than CDC guidelines, would dictate who he could see, who he could visit, and which family members were considered safe. Vance turned to the jury. "You've heard of financial fraud, but here, Exhibit F demonstrates emotional fraud." Kody and Robyn created rules that not only severed relationships, but consolidated power and resources in one household. And whose household was that? Robyn's. The jurors leaned forward as Vance let the footage play. Kody insisted he could not visit Janelle or Christine because their older children worked jobs, socialized, or went to school. Meanwhile, Robyn's home was his bubble, the only place he stayed. Christine's voice cracked as she took the stand. "We all followed rules. We all made sacrifices, but no matter what we did, it was never good enough." He stopped coming. He stopped being present for 18 months. He lived with Robyn. "My children lost their father, and I lost my husband, and the rules, they were written to make sure of it." The prosecution introduced text exchanges between Kody and Robyn, subpoenaed from phone records. In one, Robyn wrote, "If the others can't follow your rules, then that's on them. This is our chance to finally get peace in our home." Vance read the line aloud, her tone sharp. "Peace in our home. Not the family's home, not the partnership's home, our home." A sociologist was called to testify. Dr. Linda Harris, an expert in family dynamics and coercive control, explained to the jury, "What the prosecution has described is classic isolation strategy by creating impossible standards for some members while rewarding compliance in others." Kody and Robyn effectively cut off 2/3 of the family. This is not just about health. This is about control. The jury's expressions hardened. They were no longer seeing overprotective parenting. They were seeing manipulation, rules as weapons. Robyn broke down in tears on the stand, insisting, "I just wanted everyone to be safe. I didn't make the rules, Kody did." But under cross-examination, Vance's voice cut through her sobs. "Then explain this text, Mrs. Brown. This is our chance to finally get peace in our home. You didn't just accept the rules, you endorsed them, you benefited from them. And my clients, Christine and Janelle, paid the price." The courtroom buzzed. The pandemic rules were no longer a tragic subplot of the show. They were being reframed as a deliberate strategy to consolidate Kody's time, money, and emotional capital into one household, Robyn's household. By the time Exhibit F was concluded, the jury could see the pattern, money, legal authority, and now even a global crisis had all been leveraged to sideline Christine and Janelle. But Vance wasn't finished. She promised that Exhibit G would expose the final act of betrayal, how Kody, under Robyn's influence, secretly moved to refinance Coyote Pass behind the wives' backs, piling on even more debt without their consent. Exhibit G reveals a refinancing scheme, secret documents showing Kody mortgaged Coyote Pass in a desperate attempt to save Robyn's mansion, leaving the land buried deeper in debt. The courtroom was silent as Eleanor Vance rose to present Exhibit G. Until now, the jury had seen favoritism, diversion of funds, and emotional manipulation. But this, Vance promised, was the smoking gun proof that Kody Brown had buried Coyote Pass deeper into debt, while Christine and Janelle were led to believe they were building a legacy. On the screen appeared a stack of documents, mortgage refinancing agreements dated 2019 and 2020. The Brown family's LLC, which owned Coyote Pass, had taken out multiple new loans, not to build infrastructure, not to break ground on family homes, but to cover mounting personal expenses tied directly to Kody and Robyn's household. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Vance said, her voice sharp and unwavering, "this is not just mismanagement. This is a deliberate, calculated refinancing scheme. My clients were told their money was securing the land, but here we see that Mr. Brown leveraged that very land to borrow more money, money that never touched Coyote Pass." The jury shifted uneasily. They had already seen hundreds of thousands redirected. Now they were staring at proof that Coyote Pass had been used as collateral, its value drained to keep Kody and Robyn afloat. The forensic accountant, David Reynolds, returned to the stand. He pointed to one document. "Here, in August 2019, Mr. Brown refinanced a portion of the property for $250,000. Those funds were transferred within days to pay off credit card debt and past due mortgage interest on Robyn's Flagstaff home. In early 2020, another refinance pulled nearly $300,000. Again, the majority of those funds went to personal expenses, not development." Christine's face was pale as she listened. She whispered to her attorney, shaking her head in disbelief. Janelle clenched her jaw, her eyes glistening with restrained anger. Vance asked the question that hung heavy in the air. "Mr. Reynolds, in your professional opinion, what was the impact of these refinancing actions on my client's ability to ever see homes built on Coyote Pass?" Reynolds didn't hesitate. "It made it virtually impossible. Each refinance added debt to the land instead of reducing liabilities. They increased them. By 2021, Coyote Pass carried so much debt that no development could move forward without millions in new capital." Christine and Janelle's investments were effectively erased. The jurors' pens flew across their notepads. The evidence wasn't about favoritism anymore. It was about deception backed by financial paperwork. The defense scrambled. Marcus Thorne argued that refinancing was a common financial strategy and that families sometimes redirect funds in times of crisis. But Vance's rebuttal sliced through his spin. "Redirection is one thing, concealment is another. Kody Brown never told Christine or Janelle about these refinances. He never asked their consent. He mortgaged their future, literally, to pay for his own debts. That is fraud." Kody finally erupted from the defense table, his voice rising. "I did what I had to do to protect this family. None of you understand the pressure I was under." The judge's gavel slammed. "Mr. Brown, you will remain silent or be held in contempt." The outburst only deepened the impression of guilt. By the time Exhibit G closed, the picture was undeniable. Coyote Pass was not just mismanaged, it was cannibalized. A dream that had been refinanced into oblivion, leaving Christine and Janelle with nothing but debt. But the prosecution had one more weapon to unleash. Exhibit H promised to expose the aftermath of the refinancing, the shocking debt total that forced the judge's final ruling, sell Coyote Pass. Exhibit H reveals the full debt tally, nearly $1.8 million, and the judge's statement that Coyote Pass could never be salvaged. The air in the courtroom felt heavier as Eleanor Vance rose again. Everyone knew what was coming. The grand total, the true scale of debt that had been hidden beneath Coyote Pass like a landmine, waiting to detonate. She called it Exhibit H, the full debt tally. On the screen, a giant spreadsheet appeared. Rows of loans, interest payments, property tax arrears, and penalties stacked one atop the other. The final number glowed at the bottom like a death sentence. $1.8 million in outstanding liabilities. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Christine gripped Janelle's hand, her knuckles white. Meri stared down at the floor. Silent, Robyn dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, her shoulders trembling. And Kody. He sat rigid, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning as though he could will the numbers away. The jury's faces told the story. Shock, disgust, disbelief. This wasn't just poor planning. This was financial devastation. Reynolds, the forensic accountant, explained the breakdown. We found evidence of at least 5 separate refinances between 2018 and 2021. Combined with unpaid property taxes and penalties, the debt ballooned to nearly $1.8 million. At this point, Coyote Pass was underwater. Its value as an asset was entirely eclipsed by its liabilities. Vance leaned forward, addressing the jury directly. This is the heart of the matter. My clients were told Coyote Pass was their future. In reality, it was drowning in debt. Their money wasn't invested, it was consumed. And the only way forward, the only path to justice, is liquidation. The courtroom murmured, the word liquidation striking like thunder. The defense tried to spin the narrative. Marcus Thorne argued, yes, the property carried debt. But debt doesn't erase value with time, with development. Coyote Pass could still thrive. But the judge interrupted, his voice sharp. Mr. Thorne, this court has seen enough. Debt of this scale cannot be ignored. It is clear the property is unsustainable in its current state. The jury wasn't just convinced, they were outraged. Christine and Janelle's pain had a number now, a staggering number that underscored the betrayal. Christine took the stand once more. Her voice trembled, but her words cut deep. We were told this land was our legacy. I believed it so much, I sacrificed everything to see that it was never possible, that it was drowning in debt from the beginning. It's worse than losing money, it's losing hope. The prosecution rested Exhibit H with one final note. Vance declared, "This is no longer a question of family disputes or failed dreams. This is fraud, deception, and theft, executed under the guise of partnership and love." The judge nodded gravely, signaling that the evidence was complete. The next stage would be the defense's last attempt to salvage Kody and Robyn's reputation and their fortune. The defense calls Robyn to the stand in a desperate attempt to shift blame and win sympathy. But Eleanor Vance's cross-examination threatens to tear her apart. When the defense called Kody Brown to the witness stand, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. Everyone leaned forward. This was the moment the defense had pinned their hopes on. Robyn's tears, her trembling voice, her chance to paint herself as the misunderstood wife caught in a storm she never asked for. Marcus Thorne guided her gently. "Mrs. Brown, did you ever intend to defraud Christine or Janelle?" Robyn's voice quivered as she clutched a tissue. "No, never. I just wanted a home for my kids. I trusted Kody. I believed in the dream of Coyote Pass like everyone else. I didn't know about all those debts. I didn't know Christine and Janelle's money was being used. I thought we were building something together." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, and for a moment, some in the gallery seemed to soften. She described moving her children, wanting stability, wanting peace. She insisted she never asked for special treatment. "I didn't manipulate anyone. I just wanted to belong. I just wanted love." The jury watched closely. Was this sincerity or performance? Then it was Eleanor Vance's turn, and the shift in tone was immediate. She approached the stand with icy precision. "Mrs. Brown," Vance began, her voice calm, "you testified that you trusted Kody, that you didn't know where the money came from. But isn't it true that you signed every closing document on your $890,000 mansion?" Robyn blinked rapidly. I I signed what Kody told me to sign. I didn't ask questions." Vance's eyes narrowed. "So you signed off on nearly $1 million purchase and never once asked how it was funded, never once wondered where Christine's home sale money had gone?" Robyn fumbled. I didn't know." The prosecutor pressed harder. "Let me remind you of your text message, Exhibit F. This is our chance to finally get peace in our home." That wasn't ignorance. That was endorsement. You wanted peace in your home while Christine and Janelle were left in rentals and RVs. Isn't that true? Robyn's face crumpled. "I just wanted stability." But Vance wasn't done. She pivoted to Exhibit G, the refinancing scheme. "And when Kody refinanced Coyote Pass, did you not also sign documents granting consent as his legal wife?" The room went silent. Robyn stammered, "Yes, but he said it was necessary." Vance's tone sharpened. "Necessary for whom? Because the money went to pay off debts on your mansion, not to Christine, not to Janelle, to you." Robyn's tears no longer looked like victimhood. They looked like guilt. The jury's eyes narrowed. Sympathy was evaporating. By the time Vance finished her cross-examination, Robyn was sobbing openly, her testimony shredded by contradictions and evidence. The defense's star witness had collapsed under pressure. Kody sat stiffly behind her, his face a mask of rage, glaring at Christine and Janelle across the courtroom. But the damage was done. The jury had seen the documents, the texts, the signatures. No amount of tears could wash away the evidence. The trial now barreled toward its climax, closing arguments, and the judge's final ruling on whether Coyote Pass would remain in the Browns' hands or be ordered sold once and for all. Closing arguments electrify the courtroom, and the judge delivers the shocking ruling that strips Kody of Coyote Pass forever. The final day of the trial dawned with the weight of history pressing down on the courtroom. Reporters jostled for position, fans camped outside, and inside the gallery, the air was electric with anticipation. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat shoulder to shoulder, hands clasped tightly. Across the aisle, Kody sat rigid, his face pale, while Robyn clutched his arm, eyes swollen from days of tears. Eleanor Vance delivered her closing argument first. Her voice rang with controlled fury. "Ladies and gentlemen, this was never just about land. This was about betrayal. Christine and Janelle invested their lives, their money, and their trust into Coyote Pass. And what did they get in return? Lies, concealment, debt. The defendant, Kody Brown, promised a legacy. Instead, he delivered a scam. And through it all, Robyn Brown reaped the benefits, her mansion built on the backs of women who believed in a partnership." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the jury. "This case isn't about broken hearts. It's about a broken contract, a fraud so deep it destroyed not only financial futures, but a family. And today, you have the chance to deliver justice." The jury sat motionless, the weight of her words pressing down like a gavel before the verdict. Marcus Thorne rose for the defense, his voice booming. This is not fraud. This is family. Families make mistakes, families make sacrifices, and sometimes families fall apart. But that is not criminal. That is not cause for liquidation. If my client refinanced, if he made choices under stress, it was in an effort to protect his loved ones. Do not punish a man for trying to save his family, but his words felt thin, stretched against the mountain of evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they finally returned, the silence was suffocating. The foreman stood, his voice steady, on the matter of fraudulent misrepresentation, concealment of debt, and unlawful diversion of funds. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kody Brown, liable. Gasps filled the room. Christine wept quietly, clutching Janelle's hand. Meri covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. Robyn collapsed into sobs, while Kody stared ahead, his face frozen in disbelief. But the true thunderclap came from the judge. His voice was clear, deliberate, and devastating. This court has reviewed the evidence and finds that Coyote Pass, once presented as the Brown family's legacy, was riddled with hidden debt, fraudulent transactions, and deliberate concealment. As such, the property shall be liquidated. Coyote Pass is to be sold at auction, with proceeds distributed equally among Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and Meri Brown. As restitution, Kody Brown is hereby stripped of control over the land. The dream of Coyote Pass, the land that was supposed to unite the family, was gone in a single ruling. The gallery erupted. Some gasped in shock, others whispered, "It's over." Outside fans and reporters flooded social media with headlines. Judge orders Coyote Pass sold. Christine and Janelle win. Kody loses everything. Christine and Janelle embraced, their tears mixed with relief. For them, it wasn't about money anymore. It was about vindication, proof that their sacrifices had mattered, that the truth had been heard. Kody stormed out, his face red with fury. Robyn trailing behind, her sobs echoing down the corridor. The image was haunting. The once proud patriarch of a plural family, reduced to a man without land, without trust, without control. As the dust settled, one truth was undeniable. Coyote Pass was never a dream. It was a fraud, and in the end, a court of law had done what the family never could: expose the truth and deliver justice. The story of the Brown family would never be the same. What do you think? Was justice served? Did Kody finally face the consequences of years of deception? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story isn't over. The Browns' empire may have crumbled, but the fallout has only just begun.